Hey guys, how are you today? My name is Bryce L. Tomlinson, and welcome back to yet another great show of the Saturday Keto Chat. Let me get my mic on here. Just getting settled down. Did my little measurements and all that business, and let me get the chat started here. Welcome to the chat. Anyway, today our conversation is going to revolve around. We're gonna be talking a lot about cholesterol and lipid panels, and whether saturated fat adversely affects blood cholesterol or anything like that. You are welcome to join the chat at any time. If you're trolling, be prepared to be booted. But outside of that, the conversation is wide open. You can check in, and if you want to drop your weight, like how many pounds you've lost so far, what your measurements are, if you want to join in that, I'll be sharing that information shortly, my check-in. And at the same time, later on in the hour, I will be sharing, I'll be giving away one of 3 books, your choice, and all you have to do is listen for your cue, and then you can participate in the book giveaway. So that'll be happening later on this hour. Again, the conversation is, it's going to, my end of it at least, is going to revolve around cholesterol and lipid panels. But you guys are welcome to chime in at any point and talk about whatever it is that you like that's related to the, to keto and weight loss and your journey. And I don't care if you're a vegan or you're paleo or you're on an elimination diet or autoimmune. It doesn't matter. I am interested to hear what your perspective is, and especially hoping that that in some way or another this broadcast can help you. That's what I'm here for. So far, the chat has been wide open. You guys left plenty of room for anyone to. YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. I wonder why that is. Well, anyway, let's hope that this continues to work. Okay, here we go. We got a green light now. Anyway. So cholesterol, a lot of us have been told our whole life that we need to watch our cholesterol, watch our dietary fat, and we need to go for items that are low fat. We've been told most of our lives that that salt is the enemy, that it's gonna harden our arteries, gonna raise our blood pressure, all of that business. And I in fact, I got into a little spat, I guess, with a guy in one of the Facebook groups that was determined that everybody in the world disagrees with my take on what cholesterol is, and by my take, I mean I was sharing a bit about Ivor Cummins and the cholesterol conundrum video. I will put a link in the description later on. It's an hour and 47 minutes. It is crazy long, but it's also one of the most important videos that I've ever seen on the topic of cholesterol. Ivor's got a great, wicked sharp sense of humor, and so his humor comes through in the entire video. So, and he has these great illustrations that really tell you the story of what cholesterol is and what it does. And it's very scientific. He gives you parts that you do need to know and parts that, you know, he'll just say, you know, here's this thing and you don't need to know that, but you know, there it is. You know, and I'm sure that some of you that are really curious will Google that or whatever. So cholesterol, we've been told a whole lot in our lives about how cholesterol is bad for us and how saturated fat is bad for us, and you need to use refined vegetable oils for your cooking, or for your, you know, if you're gonna have a thing that has fat in it, it should be refined vegetable oils, and it should not be saturated animal fat, because that'll raise your cholesterol and all of that business. Well, it turns out that all of that is just not true at all. It turns out that the vast majority of us that have blood serum cholesterol, that cholesterol comes from us. It comes from our body. Our body creates it in response to things. So if you have triglycerides, high triglycerides, which are something that shows up on a lipid panel, triglycerides are saturated fat in the blood, but they don't necessarily come from your dietary fat. Your body you're an animal, so you have cholesterol and saturated fat in your body that your body makes. But it turns out that triglycerides in the blood, high triglycerides in the blood, are a response to inflammation and not dietary saturated fat. And it turns out that that your bad cholesterol level may very well be related to a high intake of carbohydrate, or it may be related to your stress level. You may have smoking in your life. All of these things cause inflammation. You may also have a high omega-6 to omega-3 dietary fatty acid intake. Now, that means that if your omega-6 fatty acids are really high, and your omega-3 fatty acids that you eat, like from fish or from flaxseed, or, you know, certain things that you can get omega-3s from, and you're taking in lots of omega-6s and not very much omega-3s, well, the ideal ratio of omega-6 to 3 would be 1 to 1, or, you know, maybe 2 to 1. And most people seem to have a very high ratio of something like 20 or 40 to 1. So this is really, really kind of counter to everything that we've been taught. We've been taught that this high triglyceride and the high cholesterol and the hardening of the arteries is all caused by a diet that's rich in saturated fat, and that's just not the case. For a lot of us, you know, like I quit smoking in 2010. For me, it was maybe not as hard as it is for some people. It was difficult, and I was temperamental, and I was pretty sketchy, but I was able to quit, and that got rid of a lot of respiratory problems and a lot of inflammation for me, I'm sure. My life currently, I have some stress in my life that's pretty evident in my life. It's not as much as it has been in previous months, but right now I live in a very stressful time in my life for various personal reasons. My job is very intense. It's very hardcore, but I like my job, so I don't think I'm getting too stressed out from my job. I think that my job is, for the most part, very, very enjoyable. And but I've paid more attention to my omega-6 to 3 ratio as well. I'm very close to my goal weight. I'm within, 10 pounds or so of my goal weight. And I don't really, my weight is not my first concern. My health, my overall health, my pain level. I do deal with a lot of chronic pain. I have dealt with it since somewhere around 2007, and I'm trying to put the kibosh on that, mostly by reducing inflammation by diet. And there are things that I don't have control over in my life, and there is some major things that I do have control over in my life, and that's mostly diet. The things that I put in my mouth, I have total control over. So I would like to, take advantage of that. So eating pork belly and eating bacon has done this wonderful thing for me. It's lowered my blood pressure by a ridiculous amount. My blood pressure went from being quite high. I think partly I was kind of stressed at that time too. But this has also given me more peaceful sleep. I've slept better in the last week than I have in a long time, in several months. I dream normal dreams now. It seems like I was having some pretty freaky dreams, and it seems like I'm having some pretty normal dreams now. And I think that all of that plays a part, like how restful your sleep is. Your sleep is like a gigantic chunk of your physical fitness. Your physical well-being is a lot of times resolved in your sleep. Right now it is 4:22 in the afternoon here, and I'm gonna do just gonna let you know what books that we're gonna have up for grabs later on in the hour. So we have the New Atkins for a New You. This is a book by Eric Westman, MD, somebody that I follow quite, I would say, kind of religiously. He has a very approachable approach to ketogenic nutrition. Stephen Finney, MD, and Jeff Volek, PhD. These guys wrote the New Atkins for a New You book. And there are some things that I would preface about that book. Some things that I qualify. I don't really agree with, like reintroducing grains and things, but I do understand that a lot of people just aren't gonna be as hardcore and purist as some other people. Like myself, I'm not as purist as some people that I know, but a lot of people think that I'm a keto Nazi. Okay, I'll buy into that maybe. I also have a couple of copies of Why We Get Fat. There's the bigger red version and kind of a pocket version of it, Why We Get Fat and What to Do About It, by Gary Taubes. Gary Taubes is a great science writer. He is super knowledgeable on all the stuff that matters in ketogenic nutrition. And all of these are thrift store finds. You may find some markings or some wear and tear, but I try to screen the books to make sure they're in halfway decent condition. Also, we have the very popular Wheat Belly by William Davis, MD. This talks about the differences in what wheat is now and what it used to be. And it talks about why people really should not eat grain. I said I was going to do a check-in, so I'm going to do my check-in. You guys are very welcome to come back at me with your check-in, see how you're doing, talk about your symptoms, your keto flu, your what would you like to change about your approach. So first off, you guys already know that I lost 10 pounds, so I went from 189 pounds, and I was kind of stuck between like 189 and 191 ever since I started my job. The job that I have is very strenuous, and I started out being around 200 pounds. I had I think what had happened was I eat a lot of my own recipes, a lot of my own cooking. And I think I was just eating a lot, like too much of certain things. And I won't say that I got fat, but I gained 20 pounds. And I'm not sure what the makeup of that 20 pounds was, but I was 26% body fat. At this point in time, I am now 19.9%, actually 19.0 yesterday, 19.0 percent body fat, which is pretty good. I haven't seen that for several years, and I'm 179 pounds now. I haven't been in 170 range since like 2003 or 2002. My neck measurement is, again, just like last week, 16.5. It's down 1 inch from 17.5 when I first started. My chest measurement is still 40.5, down from 41 inches the first week. My arm, I measured my upper arm here. That's 12 inches. And I have noticed that a lot of the loose skin, fatty tissue around the back of my arms is starting to go away. I do believe that part of that is due to intermittent fasting. I know that the diet that I'm on is burning fat for fuel, but I also believe that intermittent fasting will consume excess tissue. So like if you're wondering what's the best way to eliminate all that extra skin, intermittent fasting, I believe, causes the body to digest, to metabolize extra cells, needless cells. My waist is still 37 inches. My waist, actually, it's kind of just where it is. My belly started out at 40 inches. It is now 39 inches, down a half inch from last week, which was 39.5. My thighs are still down a half inch, 19.5. I lost a half inch between the first week and the third week. Now the calves are still at 15.5, down a quarter of an inch from the first week. The head is still the same measurement. So I was thinking that, if Dan wanted to introduce some other check-in information, this might be useful to have a measurement around here, like measure just under the ears and around to the mouth. And I think that would get a good measurement of the cheeks, because a lot of people lose weight in their face. People say they see it in your face a lot. And as well, add maybe a blood pressure and maybe a body fat percentage. So if you have a scale that measures body fat percentage like I do, then you could write that down. And I'm not saying those are terribly accurate, but if you're not seeing the scale move in pounds, maybe that's something else that might encourage you. So measurements are a great encouragement if you're not seeing what you like on the scale. I think those three things that Dan could add could be helpful. Having blood pressure, body fat percentage, and maybe a measurement around the cheeks. Maybe not the head, some people that might be useful. But this would also get that fat on the back of your head too. Like a lot of people have this, I had this pocket of fat on the back of my head. A lot of people get obsessed with their total cholesterol versus their HDL and their triglycerides and their LDL. First off, let's just put it the way that most people that have any knowledge of how a standard lipid panel works. Let's just put it this way. A lipid panel, when you get your cholesterol checked by your doctor, a standard lipid panel has basically 4 things on it. And one of them, and this is basically all they're looking at. Total cholesterol, which is a combination of your LDL cholesterol and your HDL cholesterol. And so that total cholesterol is a combination of those two, and then your triglycerides, and triglycerides are saturated fat in the blood. Now, HDL is considered to be the good cholesterol, and LDL is considered to be the bad cholesterol. Those of us that know anything about cholesterol know that there is no good or bad cholesterol. There is the purpose that the cholesterol serves, and the cholesterol is just responding to something happening in the body. It is not good, it is not bad, it just is. And it is coming to serve a particular purpose for a reason that's caused by some condition in the body. For instance, inflammation will cause your arterial tissue to break down, and you may find that LDL cholesterol will come to try to mop things up or try to patch things up. And if that inflammation continues and it heats up that cholesterol, it can become oxidized in the blood. It's not caused by the cholesterol, it's caused by the inflammation. The situation that caused the cholesterol to start being there in the first place was inflammation. The situation that caused the cholesterol to oxidize in there and harden is inflammation. So if you get rid of the inflammation situation, then you can probably alleviate that buildup of cholesterol, in my opinion. Now, I'm not a doctor. I can't give medical advice. I want to make that very clear. I don't have a PhD. I'm not a medical doctor. You should talk to your doctor about this. But I think that most doctors are argumentative about these topics. And when I've gone in, I've found a few doctors that are actually knowledgeable on this, but most doctors are just completely ignorant on how this seems to work. And I hate that. It bothers me a lot. So when people get their lipid panel, their doctor freaks out because their total cholesterol is high, and they put them on a statin. They prescribe a statin. Now, I'm not telling anybody to stop taking your statin. I don't believe in statins. I don't like statins. I won't take a statin myself. That's my thing. But I can't tell you not to take a statin. I can't tell you not to follow the advice of your medical doctor. You need to follow the advice of your medical doctor, or you need to find a doctor that gives you good medical advice. So they tell you that your total cholesterol is really high, but your total cholesterol is a combination of your LDL and your HDL. So your LDL might have gone down and your HDL might have gone up higher, and your doctor is still going to be mad because your total cholesterol is higher, and he's going to say you need to be on a statin. What you need to be looking at is the inflammation, and the best marker that you get from that standard lipid panel is going to be the triglyceride to HDL ratio. So ideally, you want that triglyceride to HDL ratio to be below 2-to-1, or 2-to-1 or better. And a lot of people have this 8-to-1, 9-to-1. When I started out, mine was closer to like 8-to-1, 9-to-1. And my doctor said I need to be on a statin. I said, well, I'm not going to take a statin. And he said, well, you need to, because you need to lower your cholesterol. And I said, well, how about I do this other thing? I'm going to do some low carb, and I'm going to do some exercise. And sure enough, when I got my next test, my total cholesterol had gone down a certain amount, not very much, but my HDL had gone up and my triglycerides had dropped dramatically, almost 300 points. So my triglyceride to HDL ratio became much closer to 2-to-1. And yet he still insisted that I needed to be on a statin because my total cholesterol was still high. And my LDL did not go down so much. And in fact, to this day, my LDL hasn't gone down all that much. But LDL cholesterol has another part of the equation. There's actually several parts of the equation. If you watch that cholesterol conundrum video, it'll blow your mind. It's completely change how you think about everything. But the big thing that you can be sure of is that if you're doing the right thing and you're reducing your inflammation, then your LDL cholesterol shifts from pattern B, which is this small, dense cholesterol that is very prone to oxidization and responds badly to inflammation, and is the kind that builds up in those arteries. Now, that doesn't make it bad cholesterol either. It just is a symptom of another condition, and that condition is most times inflammation. So when you are on a ketogenic diet, typically, a lot of times, the LDL cholesterol, what everybody calls the bad cholesterol, again, there's no bad cholesterol, it shifts from being that small, dense pattern B to being a large, fluffy pattern A, which is benign. It's completely harmless, and most people who know anything about cholesterol would consider it beneficial. That's a beneficial kind of cholesterol. Did you know that your cell walls are largely made up of cholesterol? Did you know that cholesterol is a major, major building block to every hormone in your body, including the good hormones and including the bad hormones? All those hormones, your body has to balance itself and self-regulate itself based on what's available to build things with. And if you don't have enough cholesterol, you can bet you're going to have some kind of hormone malfunctions. You're going to have some cell wall integrity issues. You're going to have all kinds of problems. You know, your brain is, a good chunk of it is made of fat and cholesterol. You're not eating enough fat and cholesterol. You don't have a lot of the building blocks that are needed for the brain. And again, your body can make cholesterol and your body can make fat from stored fat, but is it in the condition to do that? Is it in the position to do that? If you are in a position where your body is inflamed all the time and you're under stress all the time and you're smoking and you're eating lots and lots of carbs, then maybe your body's not as well equipped to deal with these hormone problems and keeping cell integrity up to par. So cholesterol is very important. But we've been told there's so much of this bad cholesterol. Well, if you learn what it's about, there's really no bad cholesterol, and LDL serves its purpose. As long as your triglyceride to HDL ratio is good, and I've seen people have like a less than 1-to-1 ratio of HDL, and their doctor still prescribes them a statin to lower their cholesterol, and they're like, oh, I'm really concerned and I don't know how to fire back at my doctor that is telling me to do this thing. And be like, I would look at that and say, well, your triglyceride to HDL ratio is great, so I don't see any reason why I would be concerned about the cholesterol, because the LDL is not going to do anything harmful to you if you're not inflamed. And the best marker of that is your triglyceride to HDL ratio. It means you don't have that much inflammation. And as it turns out, the closer and closer I got my triglyceride to HDL ratio, the closer and closer I got that, the less pain that I had in my life. And I'm betting that my triglyceride to HDL ratio right now is well under 2-to-1. And, especially this bacon experiment thing, I need to get a lipid panel done right at the end of it, man, because I had one done like a month or two ago, and I could use that as my before, but man, I really need to get another lipid panel done because, dang, my blood pressure dropped so much doing this bacon experiment. Since we are now at the quarter of the hour, I've lost a total of 3 inches, I think, off of my measurements. And I'm going to give away a book now. You have your choice, and all you have to say is that you're interested in the book. You can choose between either the pocket or the standard edition of Why We Get Fat and What to Do About It by Gary Taubes. You can choose either one of those, or you can get the new Atkins for a new you. And my qualification for that is I don't think that anyone should reintroduce things that they took out of their diet to improve their life. But it does contain lots of useful information. It's got a lot of study data in there too. All the science to back up why a ketogenic diet is helpful for you. And Wheat Belly by William Davis, MD. And this book tells you all about why people should not eat wheat. So all you have to say is in the next 15 minutes, you can say that you're interested in the book, and you will win if you are in the U.S., and I will mail it to you free of charge. This is for U.S. residents only, because I'm not going to pay for international shipping on books. But and who knows if the book is going to be, allowed in your country, and I don't want to deal with having to guilt you guys into paying customs. So with that being said, the book giveaway is on. If you want to get the book and no one has claimed it by the end of this 15 minutes, you can also leave it in the comments down below, and I will give you the book free of charge in the next 24 hours to a U.S. resident. So, Wheat Belly, the new Atkins, why we get fat, and what to do about it. That being said, this channel is all about ketogenic nutrition. And when it first started out, it was all about my journey. I was just starting out my journey and learning about nutrition and learning about fitness. And you guys saw, how big I was back then. And I bought this folding bike, and I have put some miles on that bike. Especially that summer, I put some miles on that bike. But I will tell you that I found that exercise is not something that accelerates weight loss. At least I don't think cardio is. My experience was that when I exercised the most, I did not lose as much weight. One thing about my job that I have now is that I lift a lot. I do a lot of strenuous lifting. I do a lot of strenuous lifting and carrying and pushing heavy loads. Those activities seem to be conducive to weight loss, because I lost 10 pounds almost immediately when I started working there. It's not a lot of cardio, although I do have to walk fast and move fast around the building. Most of what I do has to do, that's strenuous, has to do with lifting heavy things like, 24 packs of soda, or big number 10 cans, and 6 packs of corn or beans. And a lot of this stuff is stuff that I would never eat or never touch. But you know what? You gotta make a living. Those of you who are interested in ketogenic nutrition, I hope that you will tune in. I know that I have a subscribe button right over here. And if you subscribe, make sure that you click that bell notification to let you know when we're going live, when a new video goes up, when new things are happening on the channel. Those will be posted there. And right down here, you'll see the BroBryceHealth.info. You can go to that domain, and that will take you straight to the BroBryce Health group on Facebook. Right over here, you see the BroBryceHealth.com website. That's going to be an active blog. I'm going to be writing articles on that. I'll be posting these videos. Mostly right now, I've been working and trying to do updates on this bacon experiment thing on video. So it's kind of difficult for me to do both and get on the blog at the same time, because at the end of the day, after, basically it's like 8 hours of going to the gym, I'm tired. So I'm ready to go to bed most days. But I get on here to check in with you guys. And as well, the check-ins are as much for me as they are for anybody else that I'm sharing with. Because it's important to me that I can go back and look at progress, because I can look back at that first video and say, wow, you come a long way, baby. I think that's I think that's really important. You know, if you're going to do a channel like this that is about accountability, you know, for any reason, whether it be physical fitness or addiction or you know, beating a disease or anything like that, I think that it's important that you do it for you, and hopefully you can inspire or help someone else. That'd be fabulous. But a lot of times, you know, people are only going to do what they're going to do. As much as I have wanted to help a lot of people, I have found that a lot of people, they will not come around to where they're actually going to take action. If you want an accountability partner, you want to pen pal with somebody on the internet, you know, if you do any of this stuff, you need to do it for you. And I'm also going to think to myself, you know what, I look different from how I used to look. I look younger than I used to look. For myself, it is as much, it's very useful for me. I look back at old video blogs that I made when I first started on YouTube, and it's so, life is so different for me now. And I think about those times. It's like reading a diary. It's like thinking back to another time. And I encourage you, if you do anything like this, that you do that for the purpose of doing it for you. So when you look back, you see something in it that's important to you. Someone else may not value it as much as you do. And I find that, you know, when you do something like this, where I try to help people as much as I can for free, that there are some people who devalue that. And there will be people who do that in your life that are going to devalue the things that you do for them for free. If you charge them money, they would value it more. I have found that people say, but I paid for this thing, now I'm going to do it, right? I paid for this thing, now I'm going to do it. And it's like, but that thing that you paid for, it's wrong. That thing that you paid for, they're not correct. They've got bad science. They're not thinking with their head. So if you go into this thinking that it's all going to be blessings and charms because you did something for free, it's not going to work that way all the time on this side. You're going to find that there are people who are going to follow, who are going to do, they are going to take your help, and they are going to run with it and do their thing, and they're going to be successful at it. You know, I've got guys in my group that are very successful because they followed the instructions and they did the work. I can't do the work for you. They did the work. And I've got gals in my group that are succeeding very well because they're doing the work. And if they weren't doing the work, they would not be getting the success that they're getting. And it's them doing the work that makes it happen. A lot of people are not going to do the work, but you can't be wrapped up in that. You need to be encouraged in your own success. Be a good example to other people. You need to not lose your temper when people get hard-headed. And you need to be loving to those people who turn away your help. And maybe someday they'll turn back and they'll actually come back and say, you know what, I'm ready now. So you need to be ready for that moment when that happens. And that's my parting advice for you guys at the end of this message. So for now, farewell, and I'm going to leave you again with some more Glenn Case music.